this is going to be the tutorial that's going to show you how to make this popcorn granny square. And this is the same square that I used for my tote bag that I made. It was one of the first tutorials I ever made, and the camera wasn't so great and it kept going out of focus and everything. So I've been meaning for a while to at least redo the granny part of it. So this is what this is going to be. For this tutorial, you're going to need a 5mm hook or a size H hook. You're also going to need 3 different colors. And this is worsted weight yarn, 4-ply for the US, 10-ply for Australia. And depending on what you're going to make, if you're going to make the bag, then you're going to need at least 2 of each skein to complete the bag. But just for the granny square, it's it doesn't take a whole lot, but nobody really makes one granny square, so just you need 3 colors of as many skeins as you need for whatever project you're using this for. And you're going to need at least 3 different colors. So grab those items and let's get started. So we're going to start off by making the center. So grab the color that you want for that, and you want to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to be forming a ring, so you want to slip stitch in that beginning chain and slip stitch to form a ring. Now you want to chain 2 and work 11 double crochets in the center ring. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That music you're hearing is the school next to me. That's their bell for letting them know to come in or it's time to leave. So anyway, you need a total of 12 stitches. This chain 2 counts as a stitch, and you just did 11 double crochets. So you need to have a total of 12, and you slip stitch in the top of the beginning chain 2. Then you want to chain 1 and go ahead and cut your yarn. It doesn't have to be a really long chain. You'll be working over it. So now we're going to be making the next set, which is this, which is the main part you'll see of the flower. So you want to grab a color that may stick out nicely. So I'm going to grab my yellow here. Hopefully it's not going to be too bright on camera. And we're going to be working in the spaces in between the stitches, in between these double crochets. You should have 12 spaces. So just start off before you get going on the next row. Make sure you have 12 spaces. There's a beginning chain. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. My 12th one ends on this side of the chain. So I have 12 spaces. So once you have your 12 spaces, you want to get your next color. And we're going to be attaching it to one of the spaces. I always like to start in a place different from where I ended. So I'm just going to start down a bit. And I'm going to slip stitch my color onto one of those spaces. And chain 2. Now we're going to be working 4 double crochets all into the same space. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So since the chain 2 counts as a stitch, we have a total of 5 stitches in this one space. Now to make the popcorn stitch, you want to turn your work to the back, find the top of that chain 2. I know it's hard to tell because it's in the back. And then you just want to slip stitch. And that kind of pulls it back. As you can see, there's a little indentation there. See, there we go. So when you turn it around, you can see there's kind of a puff going here. Now after every popcorn stitch, you want to chain 2. And then you go right into the next space. Now since we're not adding, like we did here, we had a chain 2 because we just added the yarn. Now from now on, you'll just be putting 5 double crochets in each space. And then chaining 2 after each popcorn stitch. So in the next space, I'm putting 5 double crochets, 3, 4, and this is 5. Once you have your 5 double crochets, turn your work again to the back, find the top stitch of your first double crochet, put your hook in there, and slip stitch, and chain 2. Then turn it back over, and then go to your next stitch, putting 5 double crochets in the next stitch. And when you get up to your yarn here, you can just work over the tail and then cut it after, working it over a little bit. So just continue this all the way around, and I'll see you when you get back up here to the last stitch. You have 12 spaces, so at the end you should have 12 popcorn stitches. Okay. When you get to your last popcorn, when you get done with your last popcorn, no need to chain 2, just chain 1. Because when we do our slip stitch to finish it, that will count as our chain 2, the second chain. So you want to slip stitch into this part that's formed when you create the popcorn stitch, when you're essentially folding the stitches in half, and it creates a hole at the top. You want to go put your hook in the top of this hole and slip stitch. And then chain 1 and cut your yarn. So then you need to switch colors again. Going to be making our second rounds of our puff stitch, which will be done exactly the same way as we did this round, except we're going to be using different stitches. So again, put your new color on your hook, and then we're going to be using these spaces in between, the chain 2 spaces that we did in between each popcorn stitch. I keep calling it puff stitch, sorry. Between each popcorn stitch. These actually look like popcorn, this yellow. Anyway, so I'm going to slip stitch my color on, just like I did last time, and chain 2. And you're going to do exactly what you did last time for the first stitch. Since the chain 2 counts as a stitch, you'll be putting 4 double crochets in this first stitch. And then turning it over. Come on, yarn. And slip stitching into the beginning, the top of the chain 2, the beginning here. And then chain 2. Then now, from here on out, every chain 2 space, you're going to do exactly what you did last round, putting 5 double crochets and then making the popcorn stitch. So just continue that all the way around, and I will see you back up here when you get back up to the beginning again. Okay, so I just finished my second round of popcorn stitches, and again, chain 1 only, and then slip stitch in the top of the beginning puff stitch, popcorn stitch, again with a puff stitch. And now I'm ready to get my next color. And since I've got 3 colors, brown, yellow, green, I'm just going to continue on in that pattern. So the next one is going to be brown. So my tail is here, so I'm going to start somewhere different. And we're going to be using these chain 2 spaces just like we did last round. Going to attach our color onto one of those chain 2 spaces. is slip stitching, and then chain 2. Then in the same space, put 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. And the chain 2 at the beginning counts as a stitch, so this is essentially 3 double crochets in that one stitch. So the next stitch, you want to put 3 double crochets into this next chain 2 space. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to make a corner. And to make a corner, you want to put 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space. Then you want to chain 2, 1, 2, and then put another 3 double crochets, all worked in that same space. Just like that. Now for the next space, you're going to put 3 double crochets. And then for the next space, you're going to put 3 double crochets. And I'm working over that tail. And then the next one will be a corner. So you'll work 3 double crochets, then chain 2, and in the same space you'll put 3 more double crochets. Oops. And the pattern is as follows. You will always have 2 sets of 3 in the center between each corner. This one, you already have your 2, so this chain stitch beside it will be a corner. So you'll have a corner, 2 sets of 3, and then a corner. 2 sets of 3, and then a corner. So the next one will be 2 sets of 3, and then a corner. Then 2 sets of 3, and then the corner will be here. It's so hard to look at the camera and this at the same time. So that's the pattern you're following. 2 sets of 3, and then you do a corner, which consists of 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So finish this round, and I will see you back here in a moment. Now I finished my round, and you can check your round. Make sure you have 2 sections between each corner, and I do, so I'm good to go. And so you want to slip stitch in that beginning chain 2 and chain 1, and now you can cut your yarn. And I'm still going to follow in the pattern. So I had brown, so now I'm going to do yellow after the brown. Oops. Oh, sorry, over here fighting with my yarn. Rolling it back into a ball. Okay, there's my yellow. So for the next round, we're going to be doing crossover stitches. Double crochet, crossover. Cross stitch, sorry. Thinking of my stitch, I discovered the crossover stitch. No, this is going to be the double crochet cross stitch. Okay. Oops, got a little blurry, so there we go. Okay. So, I usually like to start near a corner. These last 2 stitches of the corner. To do a cross stitch, you need to use 2 stitches. You are going through 1 stitch just to back up and go through the other one. That way they cross together. So this is the last double crochet before the corner. So that's where I'm going to attach my yarn. I'm going to chain 2, which will count as my first double crochet. And then you want to go into the stitch behind it and do a double crochet into that stitch. And that's your first double crochet cross stitch. Now when you come to a corner, you want to skip over those corners. You want to chain 2, right? Yes, chain 2, and then you just start on the other side of the corner. And again, remember, you want to always skip the first stitch so that you can do 1 double crochet here and then do the next double crochet to cross over. So you'll be skipping the first, going into the second. Where's my tail? There it is. So there's my first, and then now I'm going to go back into the previous stitch. And that's how you'll do your corners. Be a cross stitch, chain 2 to skip over the corner, and then you'll do a cross stitch on the other side. And again with the cross stitch, skip the first stitch, go into the next stitch, do a double crochet, and then go back into that skip stitch, do a double crochet. Again, skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, do a double crochet, and then double crochet back into this skip stitch. Again, skip a stitch, go into the next, and then go back into the skipped stitch. And I'm just going to do this until we get back to our corner here. Okay, now before the corner, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to skip the first stitch after the corner, go into the next, and then back up and go into the other one I just skipped. And then continue as normal, skip a stitch and go into the next stitch. So continue to do this all the way around, and I will see you back here for the last round of this granny. Okay, when you get to the end of the round, you just slip stitch in this first stitch, which is the chain 2. So you slip stitch in the top of the chain 2, chain 1, and then you cut your yarn again. And now for the last color, which is going to be green. So grab your next color, and again attach it somewhere else. I'm going to attach it on a stitch before the corner here. Get a little closer for you. Okay, so I'm going to attach it by slip stitching my color on. Chain 1. Then actually, since we're going to be doing single crochets this time, I prefer to do a single crochet attachment. And how you do that is you just put your hook through and you just pull up a loop. 2 loops on your hook, chain 1, and then pull through both loops. And then you just start working down the stitch, each stitch. When you get to a corner and a corner space, you want to put 3 single crochets into that corner space, all worked in the same stitch. And then careful not to skip this first stitch, it can be hard to see. Put a single crochet there. Then you're just putting a single crochet in all the stitches from the cross stitch stitches that you did last round. Don't forget to work over your tail. Whoops. And again, when you come up to a corner, put 3 single crochets into that corner space. And then just keep working your way around. So keep doing that, and I'll see you back here in a moment. Okay. When you get to the very end of your round, you just slip stitch in that beginning stitch and chain 1. And depending on how you're attaching your granny, either leave yourself a long tail, or you can use this very last round of single crochets to attach it to the next granny as you go along. You can attach as you go. So it is completely up to you however you're going to make this granny and what you're going to use it for. But that's it. That is how you make the popcorn stitch granny square. I hope that you liked this tutorial, and if you did, please don't forget to like and share this video, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.